for the Mod 4 Part 1 notes. This is page 2. You may be fairly comfortable with bar graphs and you can kind of skim over this part. I'm going into in-depth here. I'm going in-depth here for those that aren't as comfortable or haven't seen this in a while. Okay, so a bar graph is a chart, and I'm never going to ask you for these definitions, or a graph, but I do want to explain them, that presents categorical data, and that's important. Remember, our categorical data is our qualitative data, our quality, those descriptors. So we're presenting categorical data with bar heights, that represent the data collected. Okay, quick highlight here, just so we don't forget categorical data. So we are talking about eye color, we are talking about pets, we are talking about numbers of pets, okay? These are descriptors. Notice here, this is our data from our physical therapy injuries. So our back injury, that was first, 12 high. Ooh, I guess I could have been really organized and color coordinated with these bars, but I did not. Okay, so there's our wrist. If we look back, we had 2 wrist injuries, and our bar graph shows that too. Further on later in these notes, we will go backwards. We will take a look at a bar graph and figure out how many we had to begin with. Sometimes that's important. Okay. A variation on a bar graph is a Pareto chart, and that is just a bar graph basically going from largest to smallest. So we're going to have the longest bar to the left. So we're going to organize it in terms of the item that happened most often, then the item that happened next most often. We should have that here. We can sketch that out though. Our tallest bar is still our back injuries. Our next tallest though would be those knee injuries. And so we are going to go ahead and just organize from the largest bar down to the smallest. Okay, now keep in mind we've got 3 injuries with 2 patients, that wrist injury, the hip injury, and the hand injury. There is nothing that says one of those is different than the others, and there's any sort of way to organize these. And that's the nice thing about bar graphs. There really is no set way to organize. Okay. Last one we're going to look at is a side-by-side bar graph. You have a picture of that at the bottom. And we are going to say that's a graph used to compare two different sets or groups. Ooh, I could have left a little more room here. Within the same categories. And so if we take a look at these notes, we've got educational attainment. You might be able to read this as least education to most, but it really doesn't matter what order we're putting them in. You notice over on the left-hand side, we don't have frequencies like we do above. It's not how many people got those degrees. That would be difficult to show when we're talking about 39,000, 47,000. So in terms of this graph, we have graphed using those relative frequencies. Okay. We are going to move on to the next page and go from bar graphs to pie charts. Here's the pie chart from that first page data. Obviously, this was created with electronics. That makes it a little easier, and you can take a look at the examples below. We can use Excel to make these graphs for us. You don't have to do these a ton as far as homework goes. This will be nice when you do the first project. Okay. So we could list in here the percentages as well. Pie charts don't feel quite as precise because you are guessing with some of the wedges there, how big they should be. Okay. So our knee, we had 16.7, and if we wanted to, we could go through and label all of these. Just helps a little bit. In the event you want to add this into Project One, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, I have shown how to do this in Excel. Now, in the D2L shell, there is a folder for Excel support. There is a video linked in here that walks through this. Depending on your comfort level with Excel, you can get a free online version of Excel as a student. Log in with your CCD or CCCS email and literally just Google online Microsoft Excel and get that pulled up for you. You will notice a couple of things here. I went back to that side-by-side bar graph, actually the table, and I pulled out the frequencies. So you'll see that I've got my descriptors here. I've got my frequencies here. And then I can just highlight both of those columns, the information that I need, and insert a pie chart. Makes it a whole lot easier than trying to draw those by hand. Okay. Notice here, because I've got my descriptors in the same order, I'm starting with not a high school graduate. Both of those have these same colors below. So it makes it easier to compare and see which of those categories got larger between 1990 and 2013 and which ones got smaller. Okay. To wrap it up, the bottom of page 3 here, I've got directions for you for cranking these out in Excel.